All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight and spending some of your evening with us. Always great to see you guys, even if we do hate the reason why we know each other. I truly cannot imagine living without you. And tonight we're just going to talk a bit about something that we've gone over many times, but it's going to be a theme and something that we talk about for the rest of our lives, which is relationships after loss, how it impacts us, challenges we've faced with family, within the workplace, other loved ones, honestly, even living children. That's what I've been thinking about the most right now. Lila was our first, and she was stillborn December 13th, 2017. Then we went through secondary unexplained infertility, and through the wonders of IVF, we're able to bring our son into the world, who just turned 5 yesterday. And every birthday with him has been a significant milestone, but something about year 5, and I'll probably say this at year 6 also, but it hit deeply and it hit hard and it was heavy and it was such a reminder of a lot of a life that isn't here anymore. And I feel like my relationship with him is absolutely impacted and influenced by losing my daughter, his sister. I'm so I think I'm more present than I potentially would be. I think I'm more patient than I would be. I think I'm certainly willing to buy him more things when he expresses that he wants it than I would have otherwise. And I always think about him being the closest person to his sister because they're both a combination of my wife and me. And they share that combination of two people, and no one else does. And more as he develops and he becomes a person that has his own personality, I can't help but constantly think about her when I'm with him because she was our first and he's our first living child that we got to see grow, that we got to see experience milestones. And every single one of those is marked with me thinking about Lila and thinking about what she would be doing. And that's the relationship that most recently, I think, post loss, I've been like examining, thinking about a little more, acknowledging, and trying to understand because sometimes it can feel like such a beautiful perspective to know just how precious and fragile and incredible it is to have a living child and the responsibility and the gift of being a father. But other times it's just like sad when I look at him because he's getting more social. He expresses wanting a sibling. And then I have made sure to get in the habit of telling him that he does have a sister, but she lives in the stars. So that's the relationship I've been thinking most about post loss. And maybe that's just because, again, he is now 5. He's gone through so much. We've watched him grow exponentially.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we first when Isa passed when we were born, uh, Bella was just she had just turned 2, and I didn't think she would she wasn't really asking then, but now recently she's been, you know, hey, where's my brother? Or just like, hey, we have brothers in our hearts. Because I've told her since the beginning, brothers in our hearts. And we come there all the time, even though he's not here with us. And also, she's also more uh, careful with her little sister. She was like, hey, we gotta take care of our little baby sister because we don't want anything to happen to her. We don't want it to happen. And she needs you to go with brother or things like that. And she's she's you she's her first one, and Lisa was our second one, and she's just she's once a sibling. She wanted a sibling. Now she has one, but it would have been today. They would have been 2 years apart, and with that, it's just sometimes it's so hard to see her, and she's just uh, she's more open about, hey, she's asking more for her brother, and it's just sometimes it just breaks my heart that I can't. Sometimes I can't tell her. She's like, uh, mommy's crying. So, oh, she's crying because of brother. She tells me, well, brother's okay. He's looking up over us. Sometimes I just go by day and just try to tell her that everything will be fine. And it's just that we go see him every once in a while. We haven't seen. We don't. We used to go see him a lot, but now we don't like we used to. But she knows that every night she's like, "Hey, brother, not hearts," and he's up here. An example, my my wife took my daughters to story time, and there was a theme about family. So my daughter, she drew all her siblings, dad, and everything, and she drew her little brother up in the sky. She's like, "Oh, the brother's up there. But he's in the concept." Sometimes I don't know what to do, but I just tell her that he's looking over us and he'll take care of us just to ask him what if she needs. She's never alone. I tell her.
Yeah, Jesus, just to, completely relate to that. And I think that, from the beginning of my loss, when Lily died and Levy was about 2.5 years old, and it was so hard to explain anything to her. And she saw us so upset. And she was upset, but didn't know why. Um, and what I've kind of learned is that, what really breaks my heart is that I'm going to have to explain this to her over and over and over again at different stages in her life. And it's going to mean different things to her at different stages in her life. At 2.5, it meant something different than it means now. Then it's going to mean 6 months from now, 6 months from that. They're changing so much. And that's what's heartbreaking for us, is watching our living children change and you know, knowing that Lily can't can't grow up with her and can't go through those changes. Um, and we understand that in a way that Levy can't right now, and she's going to understand her loss and what her sister means to her. I think it's just going to be different things for her, over and over and over again as she grows up. She'll draw. She talks about Lily. She'll draw pictures of Lily. Um, we try to include her in everything we do as a family. When we send a picture to school, we try to include Lily in that picture, so that when she's talking about her family with her friends or with her teachers, that Lily's a part of it. And it scares me how that will be received, by different people, by different friends, by different parents, by teachers. And for the most part, we've had great, really understanding responses when I'm around, but I'm always scared of what happens when I'm not around. And there will be a time in her life, there will be many times in her life when she expresses who her sister is and what she means in her life. And she's then hurt as a response from other people. That's, just the reality. I know that I have to be prepared for that. Um, but it's a really hard one. So just feel free, man, and right there with you.
I listened to all of you talk about this, and it's like we didn't have a living child before Lucas. So what I'm thinking about more now is with with Rhea being our living child now, she's only 6 months old, but I'm already thinking about how do we talk to her about Lucas, and I've just have all these wild projections of her rejecting him for some reason, which is like no, like I haven't heard anyone here say something like that, and quite the opposite. Like um, I'm seeing an example from how all of you can integrate your lost children into your current lives and the lives of your living children, um, and that gives me a lot of hope because I don't know how to do that now with Rhea, and I don't know when that will come. But we have his pictures around. I always like. I don't know if she knows what I'm saying right now, but I always point to his pictures and say, "Oh, go go," that's like Big Brother in Chinese, and that means a lot to me because I think actually that's one of my first words as a child. So and it's just in addition to like trying to form a relationship and thinking about a relationship between Rhea and Lucas. I'm still working on my relationship with Lucas as well, because like even just today we were talking about like, oh, I think children just want to be held, and then it made me think like, oh, like I think Lucas would also want to be held at this time, and um trying to find ways to nurture him while he's not here, and I think that's been one of the most challenging things that I've been experiencing, and just trying to integrate him into our lives among all the people that we can, and um we always write his name in cards if we're addressing it to somebody for their birthday or for their wedding, or we make sure that Lucas, Rhea, and our dog Lenny is included, and just a way to remind people that it's okay for them to also say his name, like, because I think we've gotten a few um, instances where like that hasn't happened, and understandably, but I think trying to give people permission to do that, to um, they can also have Lucas in their lives too if they choose to, right? So
Our relationship to Liam, and also like to Nolan in the context of Liam, I mean, we're similarly to you guys have, of course, has been evolving over the past 2 years, and how we feel now about him is different than 2 years ago, of course, when we were literally in a cave, and a year ago maybe, when we were just starting to see some light around us. But around his birthday this year, so that was about a month and a half ago, actually a month ago, almost exactly. Yeah, we, like, both Evelyn and I, sort of independently, were starting to realize that we've been pushing Liam on Nolan a bit too much. And this, when I say too much, I really don't mean in terms of like frequency or intensity, but more that when we look back, when I bring up Liam to Nolan in conversation with him, like, and I look back at that and ask myself, why did I do that? And so often the answer is I do it for myself, and Evelyn would do it for herself, because we would have this fear that, okay, Nolan is growing, he's 4 now, but he's growing, and will he forget Liam, and whether, like, to what extent will Liam be part of his life? And we have sort of, at least for now, decided that, really, like, we want to be open about Liam and talk about Liam to Nolan, but to the extent where he asks about him of his own interest and curiosity and agency. We do keep our shelf, Liam's shelf, there in our living room, and Nolan walks by it all the time. But in all this time, Nolan hasn't really been bringing up Liam, and 6 months ago, I would say not as much as I would have liked, but then that makes it about me. And he would now he draws a lot, and he loves to make in his own way stick figures and drawing a family. And when he draws a family and then tells about everybody in the picture, like we even have members of extended family there, but Liam is not there. And our sort of kind of a niece, but not really. She is my wife's best friend's daughter. They spend a lot of time, and he calls her sister. So obviously it's important to him that he has that kind of relationship, but Liam doesn't seem to be it, at least for now at this stage, and we've just kind of come to acceptance to just let go a little bit and let Nolan on his own, just ask and talk about it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think I found with Chance and Oliver. I mean, Oliver was 2 and Chance was 4 whenever we lost Lucas. And like I'll admit, like before losing Lucas, like my drive and motivation and priorities all were kind of like the house, the job, the career, the this, the that. And I've always been like a present and active father, but like it was much easier to get frustrated and uh we'll have time for that later. I have to do this now because this is important. And after losing Lucas, it kind of not kind of it completely shifted like where my priorities are. And the priority now is on Chance and Oliver first and foremost. And like it's not even a second thought. Like if you know Chance is leaving for school and we didn't have time to pack his lunch that morning and he really wants his lunch for school that day, I drop him off at school, come back home, make the lunch, and then take it to school so that he knows that like he is loved and he is cared for, and that like I want him to like be as comfortable as possible. So it's long-winded way of saying like it's made me become more present, and like my relationship with my living boys like much stronger and prioritized in the things that we do, because you just learn so quickly that like all of this time is so precious, and it is limited, and I don't want to risk losing any more of that time with them. And I have Lucas to thank for that, and I wish I had that time to spend with Lucas that I do with Chance and Oliver now. But yeah, I mean that's the one of the more important relationship changes that I've experienced post loss. Relationships with friends and old friends and coworkers and whoever, like all of that stuff obviously was affected because nobody in friends or family or work or anything like that really understand what we and I went through and what Lucas had to go through and like what my children have had to go through. Like nobody hopefully will ever have to understand that in my life. And for me, it's been a long journey the last 2 years of trying to understand that they don't understand exactly what it was, and that it's not just some short term get over it thing. Like my father's not ever brought up Lucas or losing him one time. He's never checked to see, how the boys are doing, and if, there's anything that he could do to take a load off of me or to help them feel better about anything, or if they're even upset about anything. Chance and Oliver do bring up Lucas. If people ask questions about, how many brothers do you have or sisters, like he's brought up, and they're not scared to talk about him, which I'm incredibly proud of. But for it to be such a big like part of my life and their life, and to not have the people that should care and understand that put that care and effort into making sure that they're okay, it's it did really heavily put strain on my relationship with most people. And it's allowed me to look at relationships in a different way of, is this relationship worth keeping alive? Is it worth mending? Is it worth putting effort and time into seeing these people anymore? Or is that time better spent with the fewer relationships that actually mean a lot to me and my family now? And that is across the board for friends and family. Like there's family that if I see them, everything is fine and it's going to be fine, but I'm not going to go out of my way to see them and accommodate them anymore if it isn't mutually beneficial, as far as what the relationship is worth for me, for them, and my kids. And I'm not doing it just for me and my kids. It's not a real positive, good relationship for me and this person, that I'm not doing them any favors by entertaining this, like, relationship that isn't as real and true. Like, and I've gotten more understanding and been able to not have as much resentment and anger towards these people, and just blame it on just ignorance. They just don't understand like the gravity of what has happened and what it does to people. So family and friends is not as important as my direct family, my children. So yeah, it's helped me put more emphasis on what actually matters, and my kids are what matters most. Um and I think, in like the weird messed up way that it is, Lucas is the reason why my relationships with people has gotten to be better with my kids and whoever else. Because it just put things in the right light for me, in the worst way to put things in the right light. But I'm very thankful for him for that.
Um, a friend of mine, who's experienced his own loss, he kind of describes loss like a personal earthquake. Like an earthquake happens in your life, and nobody else feels the ground move. Um, and so like I feel like that a lot with my relationships right now. Is that like, I lost my daughter Avery 2 years ago now, and it still feels like an earthquake hit, and I'm still trying to put pieces back together, and still trying to see what things can be salvaged and what things can't, and just trying to put back the pieces of my life, right? Um, and like, unless I'm in a space like this where people know exactly what it feels like, nobody else felt the ground move, right? And so sometimes the conversations that I have with people or the things that come up are as if I haven't lost my daughter. Um, and I don't think it's intentional. It's just they weren't impacted, right? And so even people that like know, or even family members that know, like they're impacted to a certain extent, right? And so um, I think for a long time it was just, and even still now, just like trying to extend grace to people. Like Will said, there's people that they're ignorant, they don't know this pain, they don't know what it feels like, and they didn't experience it, and so they don't always have the same thought process that I have, or um, they don't have a second thought about certain things because their experience with um, pregnancy or childbirth is not the same as mine. So, like, there's somebody in my office who um, just had her first son, which is great. But a lot of people are coming to our office talking about this, right? A lot of people are coming, they're sending out announcements to everybody at the job. And a lot of questions, because she's on my team, a lot of questions come to me. And so that can be difficult at times when I'm thinking about my daughter and being in the same place 2 years ago and not having uh, the same outcome. It's just hard. And so I just try to remind myself that like everybody doesn't know what it feels like. Um, but that can be hard when you still feel like you're still trying to put pieces back together. So it's definitely impacted my relationships a lot. And I just try to tell myself that they just don't know. And it's a blessing to not know what it feels like. But I'm grateful for spaces like this, where I know everybody felt it, right? Like maybe not at the same time, but everybody knows what it's like to try to put those pieces back together. And it seems like there's no tiptoeing, there's no walking on eggshells here. Like it's safety here, and so that's what I appreciate about this space. That even though some other relationships uh, may not understand, that the people here do. So I'm grateful for y'all. I'm grateful for the space that y'all let me hold, and just the stories that y'all share.
I absolutely love that analogy of the earthquake. And I just see it so viscerally of the people in our lives, like they knew that our house got destroyed. And they come and they help us pick things up at first because we don't have a house. And then they start just driving by and they see that we have a house, but they don't know that there's still no kitchen, the plumbing doesn't work, the the floors in one of the room are completely eroded. They just assume, okay, the house is there, all good. And that's like I don't know, just when you made the point about that some people felt the impact or saw the impact. It's an awesome analogy that I've never heard, and I think that that's a incredibly poignant one. Thanks for sharing that, because I'm definitely going to take that one with me and use it all the time. It's really good.
And I do like the analogy of putting pieces back together because I feel like one of the like very early on, one of the biggest relationships that I had to manage is with my friends the most, because we had just moved back from Australia, and I don't think I've really even reacquainted myself with everybody who was there or seen everybody, and then something, devastating happens to us, and I think it was quite hard because I think, having not been in Vancouver for almost 5 years, I think it's hard when people don't understand what's going on, and now that I have had 2 years almost away from it, it's like, it's of course they don't understand, right? Like it's like, and I really hope they never do. Um and it's not it's not to put blame on anybody, and what happened was, it just felt so lonely because um it it felt like I just had moved to this foreign place with some friends and family, but it wasn't like people were flocking over to try to, like, to me, at least that's what it felt like. And then, but sometimes when I think back, like, oh no, lots of people did try, right? Like, and that kind of conflict in my head about, am I being ungrateful of the people who did try to support me, or am I just being forgetful? Or and I think, like, I'm trying to put those pieces back together now, like just trying to mend relationships that I feel like when I'm ready to do that, and people in my life are ready to do that as well. And it's just so tragic because it's not what I thought would happen, right? When something so tragic happens, like it's some sort of collateral damage that you don't expect, and now trying to I'm seeing some relationships like come back together in a way that um like they were never gone in a way, but it was just it's changed in many ways, and some um I'm trying to refamiliarize myself with those relationships and with those people, and it's also in the context of like I don't really even know who I am or who I was before Lucas died, and trying to piece all those pieces back together and see where I fit in other people's lives, especially like people who I've known for like 30 years, right? Like um it's just something I never thought I would have to deal with. Um and back to what you were saying, Will, like, in some ways it's given me space to realize like, oh, like I'm just gonna focus on the relationships and the people that like have really mattered and were really meaningful to me, um and all the other relationships that I haven't mentally like categorized as meaningful yet. Like I still don't know where they fall, but I'm definitely not putting as much effort into satisfying those at all. And like so in some ways like Lucas um gave me that perspective and that light as well. And in a very, very weird way, it's helped me a lot because it's put like people who are important to me first, and um put myself first as well, and I think like I was not really good at that before. So it's given me that perspective too. Mhm.
I want to talk just really quickly about, you know, family and how my relationship with family has changed, not with my wife or my living or with children or with Lily, but with family members, both my parents and then sort of aunts and uncles who, I've always been close with. I think for me, and I know that I was lucky to have been in this place in life where I felt like I was following my family. I was learning from them. I was going places that they'd been, and they had kind of laid the path and shown me what a life can look like and what it looks like if you go, in this direction. And that's kind of what my parents were to me and extended family. And then all of a sudden, I break off into this place that nobody that I love has ever been. And it was extremely lonely to be there. I felt like there was nobody that I could turn to, that the people that I had turned to in the past didn't and couldn't understand. And it really has changed my relationship with, you know, with everyone in my life, with my parents, feeling like they don't have all the answers. And maybe I should have come to that before 37. But for me, it was like now I'm in this place where uh, I just am in such a, this is not anything they've ever experienced. They don't know what to do. Nobody can tell me what to do. Nobody knows the way out. There is no way out. This is just something that I have to experience. And if anything, I have to share with them what this means and constantly remind them. And this isn't because they're bad people, but it just takes constant reminder what Lily means in my life, how important she is, how often I'm thinking about her. People, even our closest family, don't understand that. They don't understand that now, almost 2 years after Lily died, that I think about her every moment of every day. And that when I go up out the world and encounter new experiences and encounter new relationships, that's the main context for how I experience the world. What does this mean for what I've lost? what does this mean for what Lily can't experience? And how do I bring her along with me? And how do I make people understand? And so that's been a really interesting transition for me. You know, the other thing that I'd say is that I had some relationships that fell apart after Lily died because people did things that were extremely hurtful. You know, even close family. And early on, you know, maybe my second call on Sad Dads, you know, Chris had said that, you know, it might not seem like it, but you can repair relationships if you want to and in time. You don't have to, but you can. And at the time, it seemed just inconceivable that that could be true. And now, almost 2 years out, you know, I've picked some of those relationships back up. Some close friends that I had had to lose touch with because they were insensitive with how they treated, you know, their own, you know, children that they were bringing into the world or other things, or how they talked about Lily. I've been able to bring them back and, you know, introduce them to Lily and explain over and over and over again why it's so important and what she means to me. And part of me is not excusing, you know, how they had behaved, but it's this relationship can still be meaningful to me and I can still get, you know, the love and support that I need, even understanding that they're never going to understand, that there's no way for them to see the earthquake that hit my life. And so that's part of it too, is accepting that other people are not going to understand. The last thing I want to talk about briefly is new relationships. You know, we're out in a situation where we're out on the playground a lot with our living daughter, and you encounter new people, or she just started pre-K, you're encountering new people in the class. And man, it's hard every time. How do you tell somebody who you are, who your family is, and how broken you are, and how important your daughter is to you in 3 seconds on a playground, you know? How do I tell somebody that there was an earthquake without breaking whatever interaction I'm in at the time? You know, how can you kind of like rewind the tape, as the way I think about it, like so that they can like watch the fast forward version of it for the last 2 years and see me at a place where I was so broken. Because if I just stand there and say, oh yeah, I have a daughter, Lily, and she died, and I'm completely fine, I appear fine from the outside, it's like Rob was saying, I think people think, at least in my mind, they think, okay, well, it must have been not that bad, must not be as devastating as, you know, I would have imagined, if this person can stand here and talk to me and smile and, you know, on the playground and talk about his daughter. So that's been a real struggle for me. I don't know how to deal with that. You know, you don't want to hurt people, you don't want to shock or surprise them. I do want them to know about Lily, and I do want them to understand what she means to me. So
Matt, I think you brought up like so many good things, so many good points, like the struggle to like teach people and talk about like how you feel about your daughter. But I feel like it's so important because like just being totally honest, like before this group, I haven't had any of these conversations anywhere. Like did I know that people have lost their children before? Yeah, like somewhere in my mind, I know that it's possible, right? And even that I may have met people that have, but it's not conversations that's like I'm having like prior to me losing my daughter, right? And now I'm the one facilitating these conversations with other people who haven't had these conversations before, right? But I think it's so important because like how else how else do people know what this is like, right? And you know, like we hope that nobody else experiences the losses that we have. We also know that there's going to be more people that will, right? Um, but like, I just think it's so important for like it's hard to teach people these things because in a way we kind of relive some of that every time we have to have a conversation and think about, am I going to tell you all of this stuff and what is this this conversation, how's it going to turn? But I also think it's like it's so necessary because like how else would they know if we don't talk about it, right? How else will they know about the struggle if we don't talk about it? How else will they know about our kids if we don't say their names, right? And so I think like while for me, when those conversations come up, like I just choose the hard conversation. Um, and my hope is that whoever I'm engaging with is going to stick around to continue the conversation. But if I only have that conversation, I'm going to honor my daughter in there. Like I'm going to let you know what it's really like, um, in hopes that you never feel it. Uh, but if you ever run across somebody who does, like you'll know what it's like. You know what I mean? So like when they meet another sad dad, that we're not having the same. You're not having the same conversation with them that you just had with me. Um, So like, I think it's tough. I think we all still trying to figure out like what is the best way to do it. And I think that changes from situation to situation. But like, I respect you for continuing to have those hard conversations, and that even years later, it's still important to figure out how do we do this, and how do I make sure that people know that I care about my daughter. So
Yeah, and I think like that was one of the big like points of anxiety for me and Mike and Matt. You guys bring like it's just ooh, like I didn't tell anybody at work about Rhea because I know I couldn't talk about Rhea without talking about Lucas, right? And I don't and I think it was I didn't tell I only told two people, and those are the two people who needed to know that I'm hopefully gonna take about 4 weeks off for Rhea to help with Rhea. And I think like one of the more consistent questions that like we've been asked like by people who don't know us is oh, is Rhea our first, you know? And some of them are really silly because it would be me, Kelsey, Rhea, and Lenny on a walk, and they'd ask if Rhea's our first, and I'm trying to find a scenario where we don't bring our other child to unless they're like an adult or like much older or something. So I don't know where those some of these questions come from. But you know, like I go through that internal dialogue all the time. Like, do I get into like Matt, what you said? Do I get into this understandably brief conversation, but like it's going to how do I summarize this past 2 years to this person who like I don't really know out of the context of something professional or just having met you on the street. And it's I've been trying to, you know, if I have the energy to to share Lucas with them. And I think like Mike, you said something very interesting because it's, you know, if you happen to have someone who does stick around with you in that moment to talk about Lucas or share a little bit about maybe something that they've experienced or um you know, that's like very very magical, I think, because it's like you don't meet someone like that all the time. And then you also get some responses where they immediately comment on, oh well, like you have Rhea now, you know, like and then that's just the most cringe thing. And then that's kind of raises flags for me. Is okay, like we don't like you're not the person to continue this with, you know, and that's okay. But at that, like it's incredibly hurtful because I just shared something so personal with you, um, and you want to move on from it, like you know, and it's like if you didn't want that answer, like I don't know how else to answer in some cases. And then sometimes like, you know, like I don't bring him up, and that is incredibly hurtful for me because I think I had an opportunity one time and I didn't, and it completely shattered me because why wasn't I able to, you know, talk about my son, right? And it like and it I went down this huge spiral about like, am I ashamed of him or am I ashamed of myself? Like, and you know, I just had to try and forgive myself and give myself space that, you know, like maybe that wasn't the right time for myself, or and give myself permission to do it whenever it feels right. And but it definitely has been just how do you let people in? And even when they're so close to you, like people I've known my whole life, like I haven't been able to like do that with some people. And it's hard because um it's like those are the people who you sometimes like you've always looked to for comfort and support, and then all of a sudden you feel like it's not possible, right?
Yeah, I think and it changes the way that I go about like talking about Lucas or introducing like Lucas's story to anybody that I'm talking to. It always changes. The last few months, I treat it the same way that I would treat introducing my living children to somebody. Um, Back to their time being so valuable and their time being so precious. Um, if I'm talking to somebody and like they seem like somebody that I would be okay introducing my children to, um, my living children to, then and the conversation is one that like I'm going to be able to what I feel like is like properly honor Lucas by talking to them about him and his story, then I will bring it up. If it is a short interaction where, you know, that's going to be the only time I ever talk to that person and like truthfully it's not going to affect them either way if they know or if they don't know. They for me in my head right now, I don't know that it's worth it to bring it up to them because it's like his his story is such an important one, and if they're not a person that's like deserving to know the story or whatever, like I don't feel as bad anymore not telling people that I have three boys. That I don't feel as bad telling them that I don't have three boys now as I did, you know, a year, 6 months, whatever after losing Lucas. It just, it's because I know what I'm doing in my personal life and within the relationships that matter to honor Lucas. Um, and like it's a lot and there's no limit to how much you can honor your children, but I think um we always say like we need to give others grace, we need to give ourselves grace, and it's finding the boundaries that you need to set for yourself and then finding the balance of what and when to share. Just I mean, you're not going to go to your job and tell people at your job everything about anything else that is personal in your life. So it might not always be the opportune situation, just like you said, Stanley, where you didn't, tell them that you had Rhea. You didn't tell people at work that you had Rhea, and that's a fine thing, and that is an equally important um, event in your life as losing Lucas is as having Rhea. And like it's okay to not tell people about it because it's your reason, it's your reality, it's your life that it ultimately affects the most and makes the biggest impacts to. But yeah, I mean, I've had both situations happen so many times where I've brought him up and it's been a like really great and healing type of conversation with a stranger about it, and like I got the response that we always hope to get. And then I've also had the other one where it's the comments of, well, at least you have two living boys, or it wasn't meant to be, or it's the God's plan, or whatever. And um I mean yeah, I've experienced both a lot, and it's my way of going about it's probably going to be different 6 months from now, and it's something that is always changing, and like Mike said, we're always trying to put the pieces back together, and we just might not know how big the thing is that we're trying to put back together. So
I
And we
used to
go ahead.
Okay, I'll go and then you, Jesus. I used to love getting asked in the playgrounds, hey, you have other kids, and it was mostly in the rawest, most difficult time, a lot like before even finding you guys. And it just doesn't happen nowadays so much that no one is in school and we're more doing organized activities, don't spend as much time in the playground. But back then it was the loneliest place on earth to be. And our our existing relationships, friends and family, mostly unhelpful and difficult to connect on that level simply because of the lack of shared experience. That like I just needed any opportunity to just say about Liam. And it's a very interesting question, Matt. Like how do you just stand there all cool and say in 3 sentences uh, what happened in a way that truly conveys how you feel? And um, I don't think anyone would be really cool about it. I mean, most of the times, my voice would waver as I say it, or my um, eyes would tear up, and the responses would be hit or miss. I mean, I got as bad as, one mom telling to another mom, "Oh, hey, he just told me his wife lost her baby." Um, Literally a minute after I told her. Um, to on the other end, a person truly, being interested in asking questions and like asking more about the whole story and about Liam. And those are really beautiful and rewarding. Yeah, so I mean, in my case, like I just had no choice. And sometimes I think back about some of those conversations with strangers, and I mean, most of those people I wouldn't see again. And there is something warm in my heart uh, about that. It's in part what kept me going day to day, and having like Evelyn being in such a deep cave with her grief and just being unaccessible and unavailable to Nolan, like day in day out. I was doing all the hands-on stuff and spending 2 or 3 hours in the playground every day. Those were really like I cherish those. All right, Jesus, go ahead.
I think with all of us, we're like that earthquake that we've gone through. And, what's happening is we're evolving. We're um, evolving into a new person where we're not the same person that we were, with our loss. Now we're a different person. We're choosing. We're learning. We learn with each other right here. We're having conversation with this, with our brotherhood that I feel like we have right here. And that without this space, and no one knows, not a lot of people know about it. Uh, and there's this stigma that you don't talk about your loss. There's uh, there's uh, there's some people I know that have had a loss, but they don't talk about it. And try to talk about it. If you try to talk to them about it, they just like the guys will be like, no, it's just it's not for us to. It's just guys don't. You just stay quiet and just keep going, man. And I'm like, well, just don't keep it inside because sometimes it hurts. I mean, no, it hurts all the time. But if you and then find a space, this is a space, a safe space where no one will judge you. You'll be safe. I had some conversations with people to where like they'll say like, oh, okay, it wasn't meant to happen, or it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, or they just don't say anything. There's people that there's like I have another daughter now, and people will tell us, oh, when are you guys gonna have the boy? And I tell them, like, and I just look at my wife and say, like, we have a boy. It's just not here. But that's right. And we just don't say anything because those people, some of those people don't deserve to know. It just they're just so um what what's that word? They're just cold at that time. And it's just they think I'm getting over a lot. So yeah, there was this guy that I've known for over 20 years, and he's a really good guy. He comes in, he's a plumber. He's a friend, family friend. He saw me and Lisa when we were pregnant with Lisa, and one day he comes by. He said, hey, so how's the baby? I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Yeah. How's the baby? Was it a boy or a girl? I'm like, you didn't make it. Like, no, he's messing with me. Oh, you didn't make it. He just said, I'm sorry, turned around and just walked off. It's just like, sorry, man. I just didn't know. And we, when we lost Esau, we kind of kept it to ourselves for, for many reasons. It's just like, and I wish we could have told more people at the beginning, but it's just like, it was just so painful to just tell, the whole world, or just, it was just like something like, oh, that you're supposed to just keep it to yourself. But that's what this group I learned that you just you gotta say your baby story all the time, and it's just they're with us. That's how I learned.
I think for me, like, to Stanley's point, like, often, like, when I talk about my living son, I usually just talk about him. But you have opportunity, you have times when people will ask you things like, is this your first? Is this your only? And I think in times like that, I'm just very sure of myself and the fact that I have a daughter. Right. And so, like, uh, if you ask me, I will tell you. Some people will get it from the beginning, um, but if you ask, I'm gonna let you know, and then I'm also not taking responsibility for how you feel afterwards. Um, so like kind of like you said, Jesus, like people will say, well, do you want another? Do you want a girl? And I have my girl, like I have, um, and I think that, like, me being sure of that, like, kind of helps with the conversations that happen from there. But I am grateful for the times when I share about my daughter, because a lot of times it's put me in relationship with people that, like Jesus said, have experienced the same thing. They just don't talk about it because it's not something that seems to often be talked about. Um, and so that's been beneficial too. Like, I'm grateful that um, talking about my daughter to people put me has opened up conversations for people that um, may not join this group, right, or don't know that we exist yet, um, and have been able to start, like, little pockets of support in different places, um, because I felt like it was a good idea to share about my daughter. Um, so it's definitely challenges to it, um, but I think, like everybody else mentioned, there's always the opportunity for something good to come out of it as well.
I could go on and listen to you all speak all night. There is never a moment that I am not amazed by just the perspective and the wisdom and the insight and the gratitude and strength that all of you have. And I think that's a huge part of it is what makes this a special place. It is what makes it a safe place. And no matter where you are, in terms of how far removed from your loss, you have something so incredible and generous to offer that I know I always benefit from and I appreciate hearing. And it changes the way that I then go out and develop my relationships out in the world. And that is like so invaluable. And that's a result not only of Lila, but of all of your children and your willingness to share them and what you've learned as you live with having lost them. And I know they're just not totally gone because we have a safe place we can dedicate to talk about them. And even if people can't sign on, they interact somehow or other with any of the various ways that people in our community keep in touch, like just has changed me so much and has given me so much. So I'm eternally grateful to everyone continually, time and time again, offering such profound insight. And with that said, I know it's a school night and it's 9:46 p.m. on the East Coast, but Albert just put his camera on and Will has great editing capabilities. So this whole part where I was about to sign off can be I given the floor to you, Albert,
Thanks, man.
if you'd like it.
Yeah, I'd love it. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, obviously I've been listening to everything you guys have been saying, and it's obviously it resonates with me. Um, this space is special for so many reasons. And I think it's funny because sometimes you don't really think about it until other people bring up points and you just didn't really see it from that perspective. And it constantly happens, even years after knowing you all. Um, and so for me, it does a couple things. One thing is that it reinforces the thoughts that maybe you thought in the back of your head, but you weren't sure enough to say out loud. And at the same time, it also challenges you on other thoughts that you were so dead certain on, and then you realize from somebody else's perspective, whether it's they have a living child, they don't have a living child, whether they've gone through multiple losses or just the one loss, and how recent that loss was or how long ago that loss was. And it challenges you to think, you know what, this isn't the right way, or maybe I can do this a little bit better, or maybe I can celebrate my child a little bit more, or maybe the thoughts that I have aren't as crazy or outlandish as they seem to be for me at the moment. Um, and it's not just that. To me, it's also I don't really see the benefits sometimes day to day. It's really after weeks and months and stuff like that that I really get a broader sense of this group and this space and what it does for myself and for all of us. To give an example, I hadn't seen my family in Costa Rica in 7 years. And so, and during that time, I lost my father. I lost a couple of uncles down there as well. And obviously I lost Augie. And it, to not be with them during all that time, and then for them to see me and to talk with me, really wasn't sure what to expect, to have to explain about, what my wife and I were going through with Augie and the loss. But because of Sad Dads, and because they saw, the way that I would bring up this group in social media and the way that I would constantly talk about Augie, and really because of the support and because of how I see you guys do the same thing, it made that conversation so much easier, so much easier. They were able to approach it. They were able to want to talk about it. They were able to show interest. They were able to realize that, hey, this is something that is not going to go away from me or any of us. And this is something that's important to me. And of course I want to talk about it. And I think without this group and without that interaction, without you guys, I don't think I've ever would have had that. I think it would have just been swept under the rug, just like so many other losses that we've had in this family. And we would have had that conversation, but it just wouldn't have been open. It would have just been, years from now, and it wouldn't have been so beautiful. So I really, really do thank you guys and this group for having this space continually, and for it to thrive and to grow and to really, just all of you wanting to see the best in yourselves and each other, uh, and to not have another dad go through this alone like you were until you had this group.
Yeah,
I mean, it's sorry, go ahead.
just gonna say that the one relationship that we haven't talked about, but that's on everyone's mind, is my relationship with you guys. And I can't imagine where I'd be. What would my relationship with my daughter, with Lily, look like if I didn't have you guys and I didn't have these friendships and this support? It's just unimaginable to me. And I love you guys so much. And I'm so forever grateful for what you guys have given to me and my family and to Lily.
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate that, like, I think all of us, with the exception of Rob, experienced our losses within a few months of each other. I mean, I know I lost Lucas May 1st. I I know it's, so many of these people in here were literally within weeks, and like somehow we all magically trickled in and found sad dads, like without waiting as long as people like Rob and Chris and Jay and Rudy and all these other amazing people had to wait to get this support. And uh, I think seeing all of us now, like 2 years later, is like unreal. I mean, I know where I was at and what I was feeling, and I could see and feel what all of you were feeling at the same time. And um, the hopelessness that all of us came into this group having, and none of us having that hopeless feeling anymore. And knowing that, like, we've all carried each other through the hardest thing. And I don't know. It's just it's awesome to like to be here now with you guys. Like, you know, right after losing Lucas, like Mike being a complete stranger other than meeting him on two sad dad Zoom calls, and to have him like drive over an hour just to like be there to support me one day, and not even needing to like share an immense amount of time and words with each other to do like to have this like true bond and brotherhood that like I'm sure will never be broken. Like, and like Sad Dad's Club is like the one place that I don't think an earthquake could come through and break into pieces. Like, it's not it's an unbreakable bond, and it's something that nobody can ever understand until you're here. And just thank you guys all for being so consistent with me and yourselves and your children and what this has become over the last 2 years since we've been in it. And got to thank Rob and Chris and Jay for, you know, uh, realizing the need for it and facilitating all of this to happen, because I I know for sure that all of us would be completely different people and today than we are now. And I think we're all better people now than we would have been had we not been able to all come together and find each other. So thank you guys all.
I remember Rob saying this one of my first meetings back. I think it was that encouraged me to come back as well. He said, "We're here till you till until you need us, and we're gonna be here till you not even when you don't need us anymore." Or I don't know if I said it right, but I think I told that to Rob earlier this last week.
I get it. I get what you said. I get it.
I love you guys. I mean, it's good. I just stay on the back a lot and listen. I mean, I feel everything that when you guys, tell your stories, say everything. It's just like this connection, and it's just like when you guys are sad, I feel sad, happiness, everything. Thank you guys.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, I think Will, you said share with like you guys, my family, and it's like, oh man, like there's just like, Matt and I have this incredible connection where, Lily and Lucas were born on the same day, and it's like, oh, like that's I've been able to, tell Kelsey all this, like what that means, and we've written Lily's name on a rock in, I think we were in Denmark, like just on the side of a mountain, and then they'll always be together there. And um every time I get some ice cream, Albert, like it reminds me of you and Augie, and I remember like the t-shirt and hat you made, Will. Like every time I see a sunflower, I think of Avery. Uh Millen, you brought me back to like doing all the nerdy stuff again. And Jesus, like every time I think about like Kelsey's dad has a place in Arizona. It's like, oh, like next time we go there, we gotta see you. And Rob, like just like I sent you a picture of a restaurant name. It's called Lila, like right, like that would have like no meaning to me other than like if we hadn't met, and like I haven't, like if you didn't introduce like Lila, or like any of you guys introduce your kids, like I would never like have this ability to like connect with them either, right? And it's like I think that's reminds me, like even though when I feel like I'm in constant, like I'm in a place of loneliness a lot, but when I get that ability to connect with your children and yourselves, like I think that's like such a great gift, right? Like to be a part of this community. And I think one of the things that this community really says too, like as we're speaking, is just like this is happening to us too, like this is like I think like the comment, I don't know if you were paraphrasing, Millen, like where that lady said, oh, his wife just lost her child, like, or lost her pregnancy. It's like, no, we, like, that is true, but like, Millen, you also lost your child. And I think,
Yeah, that was the point. It was quite literal because I was
yeah,
right there and I
and
just told you this and I'm the dad.
yeah. And it's just like, I think it's not something that's like really obvious for people to think about. Um, and I hope at a very basic level, like that awareness comes out with this group. Like, and the more we talk and have these conversations, that like this is happening to to us too, right? And as deep as we can go, if that's the one takeaway that I think like people can get, like I think like we've moved mountains already with that, because I feel like that is still something that people don't think about. um you know
Hey Rob, do you want to do intros? I know we didn't do that, but if you want that for the B-roll, up to you guys.
That's a very good idea. How do we execute this? Like,
We
well,
just do it, and I can.
okay, because I know everybody's great. I'd be like, start top left, but then like two people start talking at once. They're like, yeah,
Let's start the call all over.
yeah, scrap it. Hold on,
Let's do it again.
I didn't know. Let's do it again. Let's do it
do it
again.
again.
This is a rehearsal.
Well,
Yeah.
if we raise hands, I think that if everyone on a computer,
Yeah.
so if we raise hands, that'll put an order on. I think.
See, you guys, this is what I'm talking about. Now, if I
And
could find,
you just open it up, Rob, and then popcorn it
okay,
like.
and then and I'm gonna call on the person like I would.
Yeah, just
Pass it along. Pass it
treat
along
like,
like a
yeah,
normal.
pass it along like you would do a normal intro. And
Act like I've never done this before.
I know you're like, I've ran 100 of these meetings, but what?
The pressure's on when we hit record. Okay. Clear my throat. Geez. There's something really in there. I'm sorry. Apologies. Edit that out. All right, so just as we would with introductions, starting. Make sure you have display names. My name's Rob. My daughter Lila was delivered stillborn on December 13th, 2017, and I'm tuning in tonight from Falmouth, Maine. Gonna hand it on over to Will.
Thanks, Rob. My name's Will. I'm from Hagerstown, Maryland, and we lost Lucas May 1st of 2022 via stillbirth caused by trisomy 18. I'm going to pass it over to Jesus, Isa's dad.
Thanks, Will. My name's Jesus. Isa's dad. Isa was stillborn on July 15, 2022. Tuning in from Fresco Valley, Arizona. I'll pass it on to Matt, please.
I'm Matt, from Somerville, Mass. Lily's dad. Lily was born on September 25th, 2022. She was stillborn at 39 weeks. We went to the hospital to pick her up and we never came home with her. I'm going to pass it on to Stanley. Lucas is dead.
Thanks, Matt. My name is Stanley. Lucas's dad from Vancouver, Canada. We lost Lucas September 25th, 2022. He was diagnosed with a life-threatening genetic disorder, and we terminated the pregnancy for medical reasons. And we miss him every day. And I'll pass it on to Millen, Liam's dad.
Thanks, Stanley. Hey guys, Milan here from South Florida. I'm Liam's dad, and Liam died on August 9, 2022, at 31 weeks pregnancy. Albert Augie's dad, go for it, my man.
Thank you so much, Melon. I'm Albert. I'm Augie's dad. I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California. Augie was stillborn on July 20th of 2022. And I miss him so much. With that, I'll pass it over to Mike, Avery's dad.
Thanks, Albert. I'm Mike. I'm here in Glen Burnie, Maryland, and I am Avery's dad. Avery was stillborn on June 22nd, 2022, due to placental abruption. I love her, and I miss my angel every day. And with that, I will pass it back over to Rob.
Thank you guys again so much. I was just thinking about how less alone I feel, and I know that I had the benefit of having, or the, as I say, the fortunate misfortune of having a close friend who had also had a stillborn daughter 11 months before we lost Lila, and then I was introduced to Chris. But I not only personally feel so much less alone and so much more confident. I used to really get hung up on and associate like a deep loneliness and lostness with Lila and being scared that she's out alone. And I never think of her alone anymore. I always think of her within the context of having all of these other beautiful, loved, incredible children with her that I am so lucky to know so much about. And it gives me such profound comfort to think that she is surrounded by that much love and beauty. And I no longer think of her at all as being alone. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for tuning in on school night for one of these one-offs. We're gonna see what comes of it. And just like, I mean, again, I could talk to you guys all night because you just say more and more things every time that leave me with more and more perspective and resolve in the way that I feel and the things that I think. And it gives me a ton of confidence. And there are a few things that are more valuable to have as you're living with loss than confidence. It might seem or sound impossible to people who are just coming out of having experienced loss, but I have you all to thank for that. And that is without question.
Bravo. Thanks, guys.
Love you, dudes.
Love you all.
I love you guys.
Thank you.
Night.
Yes.
At all.